Good evening. We're here with John Secor, and we're here at the beautiful Venice Performing Arts Center for Rebirth for the Sarasota Film Festival. And I understand, John, you're the producer.
I am, yes. I actually am also a former New Yorker, and I used to volunteer at the 9/11 Museum, and that's how I became aware of this film. And when we were looking at doing some programming for 9/11, this was the first film that came to mind. So we're so thrilled that we're screening it tonight.
And tell me a little bit about the film. I know everybody can't wait to see it this evening.
Sure. This is unlike any other 9/11 documentary that's been made. What this film does is it follows 5 people who were profoundly affected by 9/11, and they follow these people over a period of almost 10 years. So you get to see what they go through and how they process grief and how they end up at the end. And what's so exciting about this screening tonight is 2 people who are in the film are going to be here tonight.
Oh, wow. Who is going to be here tonight?
So we have Tim Brown. Tim Brown is a former New York firefighter. He was working for the mayor in the Office of Emergency Management on 9/11, and he narrowly escaped death that day, and he lost 100 friends. And we also have Tanya Villanueva Tepper, and she was engaged to a firefighter. His name was Sergio Villanueva, and he did not make it out of the tower on 9/11. But what these 2 people do after this film was released is they spread their seeds of resilience throughout the country, and their work is so inspirational. So after the film tonight, we're going to get to talk to them and find out what they do and how they work with others, first responders, veterans, widows, and especially these days, middle-aged school students, because that's the generation that was not yet born when 9/11 happened.
I can't believe it's been so many years. It seems like just yesterday. I know people, remember where they were on that day and how it affected people's lives. And as you say, the resiliency of these people to rebuild a life and for a city to rebuild. It gives me goosebumps to think of it. And you were also a docent at the 9/11 Museum.
I was. Volunteerism is something that's really important to me. Prior to doing that, I volunteered for the Central Park Conservancy in New York, and I did that for about a year or so. And then when I found out that the 9/11 Museum was opening, they were looking for volunteers to be docents. And so I applied thinking, what are my chances in a city of 8 million people? Well, they actually accepted me. And it was one of the most challenging yet rewarding experiences I've ever been through. And that's how I met Tim Brown, who's in the film tonight. He came to our class one day and he spoke and told us his experience.
What do you want people to take away from this film tonight?
They're going to see 5 very different perspectives of people who were profoundly affected by 9/11. And they're going to see what they went through, and they're going to see how they processed the grief, and you're going to see them go through 10 years of processing. And at the end of that experience, what I hope people take away from this movie is, based on what they went through, your experiences and your trauma and your grief, there's hope. There's hope. There's another side of it. And on the other side of it, you become a bigger, better, stronger person.
Absolutely. And people in their daily lives, and they see this and they think, wow, what I'm going through is nothing compared to what everybody else has gone through. And it makes you really think about life itself and appreciate it. We thank you so much, John, for bringing this to Sarasota Film Festival. And I understand you have a nephew here.
I do.
Harrison. And Harrison, tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm a firefighter in Novi, Michigan. And my uncle invited me down here to be a part of the film. And I'm just very excited, very honored to be here.
Oh, wonderful. Novi, Michigan. I grew up in Dearborn.
Oh, is that right? Yeah. Awesome.
So thank you.
Harrison was in the 3rd grade. He was attending Ottawa Elementary School, and he was 8 years old. And on that day, he decided he wanted to be one of the guys who runs into the building burnings and help people safely get out. It was on that day, September 11, 2001, and this year he was inducted into the Novi Fire Department. So it's just so proud of him. We're thrilled that he's here.
Thank you.
Wow. And have you been to the 9/11 Museum?
I have not. That's definitely on my bucket list. I'd love to get out there and see it.
And so tell me a little bit about what it means for you to be here this evening.
It's just truly an honor. Like my Uncle John said, that day 14 years ago was the day I decided I wanted to become a firefighter, and to be able to meet some of these individuals that were on scene at 9/11 and just be a part of this entire film, entire organization, very excited.
Well, we thank you for what you do every day. We know it's a tough job, and we thank you for being here. I know your uncle is so proud of you.
I am.
Thank you.
Well, have a great evening. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Hi, we're here with Richie and Garrett from the fire department in New York City. Wow, we're so glad to have you here tonight. Tell us a little bit about what it means for you to be here tonight, and tell us about the impact that 9/11 had on your life.
Well, it's an honor to be here tonight. We're excited to see the movie. One of our buddies that we worked with, Timmy Brown's in it. It's just it's nice to know that 9/11 is being remembered all these years later. All the folks that were affected by it, and looking forward to hearing what they have to say tonight.
And tell me a little bit about yourself and your career with the fire department in New York.
I'm retired. I was a 21-year member of the department. I retired from Rescue Company 3 not too long after 9/11. Just loved the job, loved every day of it, and never thought we were going to see what we saw that day.
I can't even imagine being there that day and the emotion and the feelings. Tell me a little bit about what you felt.
Well, shock. I just got off duty that morning, 5 minutes before the first plane hit. Everybody in Rescue 4, where I'd worked the night before, was killed right after we just had coffee together. And I was on my way to my firehouse, Rescue 3 in the Bronx, and everybody in Rescue 3 that was on duty got killed also. So I lost 62 of my friends that morning.
Wow, I'm so sorry for your loss, and just the remembrance of that day. We're so glad to have it here at the Sarasota Film Festival and to be a part of it. Richie, I'm sorry, you're over here. So tell me a little bit about yourself.
I was a 30-year fireman. I was actually retired when the planes attacked, and I worked in Rescue 2 in Brooklyn, the busiest heavy rescue in the world. Busier than Rescue 3.
We have a challenge.
And I'm here. I know a lot of people that are affected differently from 9/11, and this will be another way of seeing how other people handle it, because there's so many different problems. For instance, one of the problems is how many guys on the fire department, we did a thing called mutuals or swaps, where somebody worked for somebody else. How many guys are walking around today that should have died but didn't because they worked a mutual, and they have to live with that the rest of their lives? Not that they did anything wrong, but I know firemen, and they're going to carry that with for them for the rest of their lives.
I can't imagine that whole what if that was me.
But that's what this movie's about. How it affects different people and all your friends and family, and how you handle it.
And it's tough all these years later, and the impact that it's had, and the resiliency of people with this movie Rebirth, showing the survivors and all the successes, and it's just so impactful.
I know, but firemen handle it. It's not everybody handles it the right way, and we're kind of like used to death and destruction, but this is a total different way of everything happening. All these firemen that got murdered that day, and well,
and I think to put an impact on it too, Tom told me earlier, 343 firefighters were killed in this, and that's more than Manatee County in total, just to put it in perspective for people here in this local area.
It's the most firefighters that were ever killed at one incident in the United States, ever. The most I think we had ever lost on our job at one incident, I believe, was 12. Generally, when firefighters get killed, it's 1 or 2, sometimes 6. Like I say, 12 I think was the most. It's certainly not a record that any of us ever wanted to see broken. We wanted to go the other direction from that. But the guys do what they do. That's a job, and when people need help, the guys run toward the danger, and they do what they can do. In this situation, there's nothing more they could do.
Yeah, and we are so thankful for your service and all that you've been through, and we just can't wait to see the film tonight. So thank you for being here with us. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, we're here with Tim Brown, who has just an amazing past and role in this film, and just so heartfelt and so thankful for your service and for you to be here tonight. Tell us a little bit about the film and what you've been through.
The film was shot over a 9-year span, and it's kind of a time lapse not only of the rebuilding of Ground Zero, but also of the rebuilding of the lives of 5 people. I am one of those 5 people. On September 11th, I survived the collapse of both towers, but sadly I lost my 2 best friends, Terry Hatton and Patrick Brown, firefighters, and 93 friends who were murdered that day among the 3,000 people, innocent people that were lost. Jim Whitaker came up with the idea of doing this time lapse of our lives to shed some light on the real recovery, healing process, not something that you really read in a textbook, but what really happens to people and how they deal with it. And in the end, the film is very hopeful, and although it's a very difficult subject to talk about, the rebirth of these 5 people, including myself, is an incredibly powerful story for people that are facing hard times. So everyone at some point in their lives is going to face hard times, and this will give them hope.
Absolutely. And tell us a little bit about, the 9 years that they followed you through this. And I'm sure every year was a little different. Tell me a little about how you progressed through the pain and the suffering and all that difficulty.
I personally went from a place where my own family was worried about me and suicide. And that was probably the very lowest, and that was something I never considered. Despite the very difficult funerals and wakes that I and all the firefighters had to go through. But we pushed through that with love from my family, from my friends. They didn't leave my side for months. And we had a job. We had a huge disaster in New York. We had the anthrax attacks, and we had the crash of Flight 587 out at JFK. So we were trying to deal with all those major emergencies, and I just didn't have time to really even breathe. And went from that to finding new friends. It was very difficult for me to find male friends. I didn't lose female friends, I lost all my male friends. And so that was very hard for me. It took more than 5 years for me to start kind of rebuilding new male friendships. But I did, and I have some great friends now who I spend a lot of time and have a lot of laughter with, and a drink or two, So I have this wonderful life now, 14 years later, and we wanted to be able to share this with the world, and that's why we agreed to do the film. It is a gift to humanity for generations to come. It will tell the story of what happened, the truth of what happened that day and who it happened to. And it'll teach patience in grief, and that people in their darkest hours need to just hold on, please hold on, and get through it, because there's light on the other side. And we are living proof of that.
And the resiliency, and I can't imagine every day what you go through, even reliving it, even tonight.
Yes, we do relive it. Tanya is my best friend. We talk every day, and we help each other get through it. If we're having a bad day, if we're having a good day, we can talk about it. And people are gracious and loving if you let them be. And we like to talk about 9/12, the day after, and how America was, how New York was, and how everyone came together, and we were one at that point. And now we're divided in all kinds of ways again, but if we can just think back to those days and those weeks after 9/11/01 and how we were as humanity, we'd be a better place. And this film helps develop that, I think.
And I can't wait to see it. And Tim, thank you so much for all you've done and all the inspiration that you've brought to the world and hope.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we look forward to seeing the film tonight.
Thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Hi, we're here with Tanya that is in the film this evening, and we're so thankful that you're here, that John brought it to the Sarasota Film Festival. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, thank you for having us. I think this is a really great honor. My story began on September 11th when my fiancé Sergio, who was a Brooklyn firefighter at the time, answered the call from his firehouse and didn't come home. And I signed on to do the film shortly after Tim Brown in summer of 2002. It was just after we had Sergio's service. And I felt like the world was already moving forward, moving on, and people were going to forget the victims. So it was very important for me to share Sergio's story as one story of the thousands who were lost, and to see it now come full circle and know that 14 years later, people are still getting to know who Sergio was and how his legacy is living on through our work with Project Rebirth is really a full circle moment for me and quite an honor. So thank you again for having us.
Absolutely, and so many people, it affected, you know, our country, everybody that had a loss of their loved one and 9/11, but also the impact that it had on people in their daily lives. I remember where I was. People remember where they were on that day, and still in our hearts we hold it dear, and we thank everybody for their service and all that they've done. What would you want people to take away from this film tonight?
I think first and foremost I want people to remember that there were people, actual people who were lost, and each person had a story, and each person had the absolute right to continue living. And unfortunately, due to terrorism and violence, those lives were cut way too short, way too soon. And for people to take the big lesson from the day, which, you know, September 12th, 13th, and on, that first year, the whole world came together because they knew what an absolute senseless tragedy it was, and the love and support that we received from around the world was unbelievable. People were kinder to each other. People were really taking stock in what mattered most, their families, their friends, ensuring that they were living a good life. So I think just a gentle reminder that those lessons still hold true today. Don't sweat the small stuff. Find joy where you can. Follow your dreams. And most importantly, to just love well and be kind to others. That's really what I want people to take from the film. And I think Sergio's life represented all of that. So if everyone could use him as kind of that example that we don't have tomorrow guaranteed, and just to live every day fully and from your heart, then we'll have a great world, I think.
Absolutely. And so, you know, it has impacted so many people, and you talked about people's lives and the struggles that they go through now. Tell us a little bit about rebuilding your life and that there's hope for people.
Yes, I mean, I couldn't imagine in 2001, after the attacks, and once I really accepted that Sergio was coming home, that I would ever get to a place again that I would have joy in my life, that I would love waking up every day. And from my own experience, I can definitely say that it's possible. So if anybody's struggling to get through something, whether it's grief or a life crisis, have hope. And just trust that with time and change and small steps along the way, life will turn around. And I took that lesson very well, I think. I have a new life now with my husband and 2 daughters in Miami, living happily even after. And doing the work that I do with Project Rebirth has been so fulfilling and has brought so much meaning to everything that I've gone through. So knowing that we can use our stories now, our stories of grief and healing, to help others who are grappling with crisis or grief, is really, it just brings it all full circle too. So it's a really real honor for us to be doing this work.
Well, and it's an honor for us to have you here, and we thank you for all you've done, and our hearts go out to all that have had pain and suffering, and we just, are with you in this moment. Can I give you a hug?
Yes, of course. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We're here with Brad J. Ranney. So, Brad, tell me a little bit about yourself. Fire Commissioner, New York?
Former fire commissioner here in Florida.
Oh, in Florida.
Yes, with Southern Manatee. And we led a contingency up to New York City.
That's right.
And there was quite a few different fire departments involved. And that we visited a lot of the firehouses that were devastated, by the destruction. And these guys lost everything. They lost everything at their firehouses. And down here in Florida, they did statewide, but here locally, they did a boot drive. And with all the donated monies, we went up and we went to the different firehouses and donated the money so that they could replace their bedding or a microwave or a TV or whatever they needed to get them through the hard times. They're all busy wanting to all work and get their brothers out of the rubble. And it was real devastating. We were there for a couple weeks, and it just, there's a lot of stories, a lot of heartbreaking stories. We got to meet the mayor while we were there, and went to one of the main cathedrals for a funeral, and St. Patrick's Cathedral. And we attended a lot of funerals while we were there, and met up with a lot of the guys. And it was a coincidence that Garrett, one of the firefighters that is here tonight, survivor, and we met with him at one of the fire stations, not knowing years later he would retire and come to our hometown here. And so, it's just a small world. Great bunch of guys there, great bunch. They give their shirts off their back to you, and it's devastating.
And I think people don't realize, as firefighters, you're family. I mean, you're there with each other, you live with each other through your shifts, and for you to take that to your brothers up in New York from Florida and raise that money to make a difference in those lives.
It is. The brotherhood is not just your own backyard. It is, worldwide. It's people come from all over. They will, firefighters from all over that come there, and they'll stand side by side, and they have your back. The patriotism was just so great. The people up there would go out of their way. They would feed you. They would make sure you were taken care of, and you were right back to ground zero, working. It was amazing how everybody came together to work on this.
Wow. Well, we thank you for all you did, for all the money you raised, for giving the support to your brothers in New York City. We can't wait to see the film this evening.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mark, so great to see you again.
I'm so happy to be here. It's nice to see you as well. I think it was Newtown.
It was.
Newtown. Yeah, we're here in Venice now, and this beautiful performing arts center, remembering 9/11. We have a lot of people in this community, both in Sarasota and Manatee counties, that were physically touched and, of course, emotionally touched by what happened there. So we're really happy to be here this evening to present this film with the help of some of the folks who are actually in the building and that are in the film tonight. So we're really excited to be here. We're also excited to bring this to the Venice Performing Arts Hall. We've got a lot of things going on in the hall in the future. This next year we're doing some moonlight movies on the beach. We're doing some films at some of the schools. But tonight we're going to be remembering. I mean, I certainly do, and I hope that some of the people in the audience get educated as to what actually happened and fully appreciate some of the trauma and the unbelievable, awful situation that occurred on September 11, 2001.
In interviewing them this evening, just wow, I can't even imagine the things that they've gone through in their lives.
Yeah, it's horrendous, and you know, we're also glad that we've got some first responders here with us this evening, and you know, guys that often are underappreciated, and you know, we want to appreciate all of them, but you know, we're going to remain sensitive and we're never going to forget. So that's really what this is all about this evening, and the Sarasota Film Festival is happy to do its small part in order to keep the memory alive.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. We appreciate you bringing it here.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. You guys are great. Thanks.
All right, thanks.
But tonight, this film is meaningful to probably everyone that's here. I know we've got some special guests, and we're going to be listening to some of the other people who work with the film festival to tell you about the sponsors of this evening and talk about some of the important aspects of this film, and there'll be a discussion following, I believe, and I hope you'll participate in that. So thank you for being here. Thank you very, very much. This is a very meaningful evening to us, and I think that you'll find the film very profound. Thank you.
Thank you for coming tonight to share an evening dedicated to the power of film and its continual role in helping us explore and renew ourselves individually and collectively. The manner in which film empowers empathy by allowing us to temporarily step outside of our identity and the narrative associated with it and then share that experience as a group is unparalleled. Before we engage in that experience tonight, there are some thank yous in order. As many of you know, the festival is a nonprofit organization with education and outreach efforts throughout the year dedicated to bringing the power of film to all of the community. As Mark said, those efforts include the upcoming programs such as Moonlight Movies. The schedule will be in your program or flyers out in the front. And also, SFF is present in schools all over the county, teaching media literacy and filmmaking skills and offering many exciting venues for the display and recognition of student work. And I want to say a thank you to METV for helping us launch a TV show with the Education Department this year as one of those venues. And briefly, will all of the students tonight, I don't know if the orchestra had a chance to sit back down, but any of the students tonight, I'd like to get a round of applause for coming out tonight, as these students are here to see a film and support a film about human resilience of, I'm assuming, their free will on a Saturday night, rather than playing the latest Destiny expansion or partying. So please, a round of applause for all the students who are here tonight. I hope to see all of you at upcoming Youth Fest events. Now, those programs, nor the outreach tonight, would have been possible without the support of the Sarasota Film Festival's Board of Directors, especially its Chairman and President, Mark, who you just saw, and Vice President Sharon Weiner, and board members like Ann Logan, who are here tonight. I'd also like to thank all of the cinephiles and members whose support is evident in the strength of tonight's turnout. And by the way, membership is the best way to experience the festival, so if you have any questions about how to join, it's in the program. And I'd also like to thank tonight's partners, Project Rebirth and the Venice Performing Arts Center. Project Rebirth developed as a result of Jim Whittaker's powerful film you're about to see in an effort to build resilience among veterans and first responders affected by grief. And the Venice Performing Arts Center has graciously provided this beautiful space for us to share this evening, and we thank them for all of their help. Now, our sponsors tonight have rallied in support of the film. Please take a moment to look at the program and note them. A special nod to Venice Regional Bayfront Health, Josh Jacobson and Jennifer Saslaw. And Gulf Coast Community Foundation now has very generously supported the event from the very beginning. And I'd like to welcome Gregory Luberecki to come to the stage to say a few words.
Thank you, Jedediah. Good evening, everyone. I want to say on behalf of Gulf Coast Community Foundation, thanks to the Sarasota Film Festival for bringing tonight's important documentary film to the Venice community, and thank you all for being here in this wonderful Venice Performing Arts Center to experience it together. Gulf Coast and the Sarasota Film Festival have a long partnership, and we look forward to continuing that to bring the power of story in film to all areas of our community. At Gulf Coast, our mission is, together with our donors, we transform our region through bold and proactive philanthropy. And transformation is really at the heart of everything we do. But thinking about tonight's subject matter, I realized something. In our philanthropic work, we often, not always, but often have the luxury to plan ahead. We analyze data, identify community needs, and then mobilize resources to address those needs and opportunities. But some transformation can't be planned for, as I think we'll be reminded tonight. The resilience and heroism of individuals who can transform their own lives after life-changing events and create something good out of tragedy is something we can all learn from. So once again, thank you to the Sarasota Film Festival for this opportunity to learn, remember, and experience the power of story and film together. Thanks.
Thank you, Greg. Now we have some very special people in the audience tonight, and I want to ask you to join me in recognizing them. Would those of you who are veterans, firefighters, 9/11 survivors, law enforcement officers, and other first responders who have kept and continue to keep us safe every day, making tonight so much more meaningful also, would you please stand and be recognized for a moment? Thank you so much for being here tonight. Finally, before we begin, I want to say thank you to my staff and to the dedicated volunteers who are the real life of the festival. Somehow you make what seems impossible happen and are the joy of doing this work. And please take a moment at this point to disarm those phones and other screen devices that would go beeping. And remember to remain in your seats after the film, as we have a Q&A you're not going to want to miss with two of the film's subjects. Now it is my honor to introduce you to one of the festival's very dedicated staff members, John Secor. John came to the festival to volunteer in the 2015 season, but was quickly drafted into managing the publication of our annual film guide. No small effort, because of his 20-year history in publishing and media relations. Before relocating to Sarasota, John volunteered at the 9/11 Museum and Monument as a docent. And his knowledge of the film and dedication to tonight's event are truly a large part of why we are here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, John Secor.
Thank you. Thank you, Jedediah. That's true. I volunteered for the film festival, and they ended up pulling me in. And it's like a Hotel California story. I can check out, but I can never leave. But that's okay, because I love the film festival. I love what the film festival stands for. It not only celebrates the art of independent filmmaking, but it dedicates itself year-round to education and outreach, which is so important. I have a few special guests of my own I'd like to introduce. Harrison Manders, where are you? Stand up for me. Harrison is my nephew. He was in the 3rd grade at Ottawa Elementary School in Clinton Township, Michigan on 9/11. And it was on that day that he decided, he was 8 years old, on that day he wanted to become a firefighter. He wanted to be part of the men and women who ran into the buildings to help people get safely out. And I'm very proud to say, as the spring this year, the Novi, Michigan Fire Department inducted Harrison as a firefighter, and I'm so pleased he's here with us tonight. Thank you. You knew I was going to embarrass you. The other special guests we have, I'm not going to say too much about them because very shortly you're going to learn their stories in great detail. But it pleases us, it gives us great honor to have a couple people who are actually featured in the documentary you're about to see. Tanya Villanueva Tepper joins us from Miami, and after the film, I hope you stick around and you hear all the great things that she's been doing since the release of Rebirth. And Tim Brown, former firefighter from New York, I'm from New York, he's here, And he will also tell you all the great things he's been up to. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce to you Tanya Villanueva-Tepper and Tim Brown.
Thank you all for coming out tonight. When Tim and I signed on to do the film in the summer of 2002, it was with the hope that we could give people a personal connection to September 11th, particularly the victims. With almost 3,000, we didn't want them to be remembered as just names. So as you watch the film tonight and you hear about our loved ones, please remember also that there were thousands of others, not just lost on September 11th, but in the wars afterwards. Those who are still struggling with 9/11 related illnesses. Everyone has a story. And just want to thank all of you for coming out and the Sarasota Film Festival for giving us this opportunity to share the film. Thank you.
There are a couple of vignettes that we've come up with that we would like people to keep in mind when they watch the film. The first one is Truth in History. The film documents one of the most terrible things that's ever happened in this world. And it is the truth about what happened to a lot of innocent people that day. The second one is Patience and Grief. We would like people to, in their hard times, when they're down and out, to remember to look at this film and learn from it and just hold on to hope and be patient in their grief. And the third one is really Tanya.
Long live love.
Yeah, long live love. And love is what really gets us through all of these difficult times in the end. So if you can remember those things through the film, that would be great. And then one day share all these lessons you've learned with the next generation, because children of 14 years, 15 years old are really not going to remember this now. So this is truly history. I want to say thank you to my FDNY brothers who are here in the audience. Today is also Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, so we say thank you. They're under attack and they need America's support right now. And very personally, my father is here in the audience. He now lives in Florida, so thanks for coming, Pop. Thank you.
Thank you.
Enjoy the film.
Okay, I'll use this one. In a moment, there will be some representatives from the festival to bring around microphones for those of you with questions. But in the meantime, one question that begs to be asked, the way that the story is so open here, is in the 4 years since the film was released, what have you been up to? And I'll direct this to Tim first.
Yeah, a lot. I retired from the fire department of New York in 2004 and did some work on a presidential campaign. I was actually a flight attendant with JetBlue for about 6 months, believe it or not. Yeah, that didn't work out too well. and now I'm back in the business of government, national security, still fighting the fight that murdered my friend and Sergio's, Tanya's fiance, Sergio, and so many innocent people. So I'm back in the government, fighting that fight, and we're trying to take the film around the country to teach and show, especially the younger folks, about what happened that day, the truth of what happened that day, and who did it, because that's as important as the rest of it. Yeah, so we want to continue doing this and expanding on it.
I was very busy those first couple of years with the girls. They were 15 months apart, so it was a lot of diapers and wiping for many years, it seemed like. And I think in 2013, After the release of the film in 2011, we started to get some really great feedback, and I heard from members of the widowed community that seeing my journey in the film helped them. So I approached Project Rebirth, who had already started working with the military and first responder communities to see if they could support me in my work with the widow community. And they totally supported me, and I found a great organization, Soaring Spirits International, which does Camp Widow 3 times a year. It's a weekend-long retreat for widows from all over the world, and I present a workshop to them, which shows my film, which is a 20-minute film, and then I talk about grief over time and share some of the strategies that helped me get through it. It's been very rewarding work. I love my widowed people. And then last year, we also launched our educational initiative, Talking with Tim and Tanya, right. Where we bring the film to middle school and high school students, and which is really great. Thank you. And we share with them our experiences of the day and the aftermath, and also the tools that helped us to get through. And it's been completely rewarding and has really brought all of the meaning to our loss, to know that these kids are really getting a connection now to 9/11, and also taking some of the resilience skills that we learned with them. You know, we've heard from kids who were struggling with grief themselves that said that they were going to get help, because we encourage, you know, therapy and peer support. I've heard from another kid who had bipolar disorder, and he said seeing our journeys helped him get hope that he's going to be able to overcome his struggles. So it's been extremely valuable work for us, and full circle, to say the least, for the reason why we signed up to do the film, to help people and to give others the personal connection to 9/11.
So as a follow-up question there, what do you believe that film as a medium, and this film in particular, let you express that you wouldn't have been able to otherwise?
I think nobody I know expresses themselves more clearly and more eloquently than you, so you should answer this question, because you are the best I know at
But you know what?
explaining.
I couldn't understand the question. I didn't hear, sorry.
I don't know if is this mic on yet? No. Okay. I'm staying over here. So I was asking, what do you believe that film as a medium, and this film in particular, let you express that you wouldn't have been able to otherwise?
I think it's the visual of being able to see, really, us come from very dark and sorrow-filled despair, and you see our movement through this place of hope and healing. There's so much value in that. I mean, for my widowed people, right, I can tell them, I know exactly how you feel, or I can totally relate to how you feel. But when they see the film and they see me in those early dark years, then they're like, she really does get it. And then they can relate to hopefully their future. They get a little hope. So I think the visual is so powerful, and it's the same for the students as well, that you could just see the full kind of trajectory of our journey.
Yeah, I just want to follow up on that. The film doesn't lie, right? You're actually watching it happen. You're not reading it in a textbook. It's not the 18 steps of grief or something like that. And they're actually using the archive of film, 9 years of film, in several prestigious universities in the country to help teach the truth of grief and resilience. So I'm equally as proud of that as of the feature film and the short films.
And also I should point out too, it's our work with the military, which has been a central focus for Project Rebirth, has been really extraordinary.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yes.
Tim and Tanya are very active with an organization called Project Rebirth, and this is a nonprofit that evolved out of the film that you just watched. And our the executive director, Aaron Leonard, is here. Where are you, Aaron? Please stand. Thanks for coming. They do incredible work. And Tim and Tanya, you're amazing. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, a question for either one of you too. What did you think that this film was going to be when you started, and what do you believe it's become since it was completed? And then third time's a charm, maybe I can sit over here.
Well, initially when I was approached by some television folks I know in New York, they wanted to find people kind of on the down low, and they wanted to find people who would commit to a long project. We didn't know it was going to be almost 10 years, but the initial thrust was that one day it would be in the 9/11 museum. And so I immediately thought, and then when Tanya came in, we agreed to do it together. And I don't know, it would have been a lot different if we didn't do it together, for me, because we always had each other to lean on and bounce things off, you know, so it was easier for me to go through it because I was with you.
Yeah, I think initially it was about the historical record. Right. And like prior to 9/11 happening, I remember Shoah Foundation. They're the foundation that supports the video testimonials for Holocaust survivors. And I remember seeing those stories and how compelling they were, and finally getting a connection to the victims of the Holocaust. So when I was approached to do Project Rebirth, I knew in my soul that I wanted to share the story for Sergio and for people to get the personal connection. What I didn't realize until a couple of years later was the sharing of the grief and the difficult emotions that came with it. You know, being part of the fire department community, the firefighter community, we had a tremendous amount of support. The counseling unit for the fire department of New York set up right away. So I sat in, you know, support groups. I was in therapy 3 times a week, one-on-one, and 2 different support groups. And it was in those support groups with other widows that we would say, wow, where do other widows go? When we would talk about the difficult things about dating or things that people would say, you know. And so I knew that it became valuable also to share that part for the widows after me. And I didn't realize, I think in 2002, that it would get to this level, that we would be doing the work we're doing with Project Rebirth, and that it would cross so many different communities. And again, you know, I told you earlier, when you're going through something so traumatic and you always want to find meaning in what it all means. What does this mean? And I feel like now, with our work with Project Rebirth, we brought that meaning to it. So very grateful to be a part of the organization, and thank you, Erin, for supporting us in our work.
When we were talking backstage, Tim, you were talking about how the power of music has on you now. When I asked about the score is so moving and such a part of the film, and what does that score mean to you now when you hear it and when you watch the film backstage? And you were telling me a little bit about what music was to you in that process.
Sure. The music here, the score is by Philip Glass, and we were very fortunate to have him do that for us. Jim Whittaker worked very hard to get that done. And obviously he was right, the music is spectacular in this film. But for me personally, in mid-2002, when I left New York City to go work for the federal government in Washington, I would fly back and forth, you know, the 1-hour flight between LaGuardia and Washington Reagan Airport. And I would always choose a window seat. And that's when the new Bose noise-canceling headphones came out. And I would sit in that seat, I would close the window shade, I would turn my back a little bit to the person next to me. I would put on Andrea Bocelli in my ears, and I would cry for 1 hour, a lot, cry hard, and I would hide so nobody would see me doing it. But his voice, and I said to you before, his voice saved my life in many ways. I've never had the opportunity to say thank you to him for that, but for me, music is is my savior. You know, a beautiful voice like that. And I feel the same way about, you know, the music score here is just beautiful. I can't imagine the film without it.
Yeah. This question is for John. You were a volunteer at the 9/11 Museum and saw firsthand how people reacted to the exhibits and the film. Why do you think it resonates with so many people?
Oh, I think it does a very effective job of telling the story of very different perspectives. And I mean, you can ask this audience, we sat through Tim and Tanya's story, and we're right there with them from the beginning.
We intend to.
The museum itself shows a shortened version of it. But and they show it in the vicinity of the South Tower. And so I was often stationed by artifacts around that South Tower, so I could see them coming and going, and the reaction was universal. It was the same, you know, it was very, very inspired, and people were really affected by it. And it wasn't until Tim came to my dosing class one day that I didn't see the film in its entirety. And that's when I really saw the true appeal of the message that it has, a message of hope and renewal.
That's right.
There's something so powerful in the way that it leaves absent much of the footage of that day and sort of the negative space of those interviews, that black space. In the commentary, Jim Whittaker talks about how personal that makes the connection, but it makes it something relatable to everybody, it seems. Let's see, do we have any questions from the audience? Do we want to open that up now? Do we have, some hands. I see one here.
Where is it?
Right in the middle there, a man in a white shirt. There we go.
Should be on.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I was curious with like suicide victims, victims of war,
yes,
victims of this tragedy. How are the people from, like yourselves, who are the survivors, because in some cases, survivors are suffering perhaps more than the victims in some ways, as you have shared. And I'm sure there's probably tens of thousands of people like yourself who went through similar situations. My question, I guess, is the city of New York and the insurance companies and the people there helping those people who had needs, like that one person who had the medical needs, are they being taken care of? Are there any issues there, like in a case of sometimes with the government and the military, that the veterans aren't taken care of in some cases? Are these victims being taken care of from an insurance and city viewpoint?
Yeah, good question. And actually very appropriate right now, because the firefighters, the responders, firefighters, police officers, and recovery workers who were down there and now are sick with 9/11 cancer or other 9/11 related illnesses are fighting in Washington to try and get the Zadroga bill extended again. And there is some resistance, which is, to me, unacceptable and unbelievable that anyone would resist that. Now, we, meaning the fire department, have been treated by what I would say is the gold standard. We have been taken care of right from the start. I don't think that's true for others. I know the NYPD and the Port Authority Police have to go to, we have our own program in the fire department. They have to go to the public program because it was never set up for them. So there are some disparities there. We use the film, and I've been doing it for at least 5 years, in the injured military community, the at-risk military community at risk of suicide, PTS, traumatic brain injury. And we have seen that be, with Project Rebirth, we have seen that be very effective in giving these heroes hope to get through it. I've spoken with maybe a dozen injured military who have told me that seeing the film and meeting us and learning from us has drawn them back from the edge of suicide. So I know it works, and that's just one community. There are many communities that could benefit from the lessons of resilience and hope that this film teaches.
And I just want to chime in. Project Rebirth, again, going back to the military, they have an amazing new program, Project Cohort, where they're gathering groups of veterans for a cohort, right? It's for them to do outdoor therapy together, learn resilience skills, and follow them as they lean on each other, get the peer support that they need, which, you know, they're very hesitant to get, but in an outdoor experiential way, they're more inclined to get the help that they need. So that's one of the programs. And then also Chief Bob Gray, who was a fire chief at the Pentagon on 9/11, he's on the Project Rebirth team as well. He's creating an initiative that's going to directly impact the fire department and first responder community to teach them resilience, because there are so many who are committing suicide across the country due to the trauma that they're dealing with every day.
Right. We know the military is 22 suicides a day, which is unbelievable. We don't know accurately what the suicide rate nationally is for law enforcement and for firefighters. So we're working on trying to get those numbers determined, I guess. But this Project Rebirth is a great organization, started off this film, and we're going to attack some of those really serious questions.
Anyone else in the audience? Okay. Is the film available for sale privately?
Yes.
I believe you can buy it and download it on iTunes, and it's available on Amazon as well.
I would recommend everyone do, just to make it simple, is go to our Facebook page, so Project Rebirth Facebook page, right, Aaron? And
our website too.
And the website, projectrebirth.org, and we'll have that information in those places, and you'll also be able to follow along with Tanya and I in all the different projects that we're undertaking with Project Rebirth.
Jedediah, I was given this question before the film. Many students, and there are many students who are here tonight, and they were of an age, I'm going to read it directly, tonight are of an age where September of 2001 occurred before a time they consider to be their present. They relate very differently to that day. What message do you want to convey to the students who are here tonight?
There's a few messages. I think the first is that life is very fragile. We're not guaranteed tomorrow, so make every day count. You know, do the right thing. Loving kindness always wins. If anyone is struggling to cope, therapy and peer support are the way to go. If we wouldn't have gotten through it without that. And also patience, I think. Life is going to go against your expectations. That's just life, and just having hope and faith and patience that things will change if you make small steps and tap into your resilience. I think that's really the message that we want to share.
Right, and I like to say truth in history, and that is that this was not an
accident.
A plot. It was not an accident. Yeah. It wasn't a tragedy. It was an intentional attack on innocent people. It was an attack on America. It was an attack on freedom. It was an attack on equality by very, very bad people. Radical Islamic terrorists, that's the truth. People don't want you to say that, you know. And I'll just say it because I always have to say it. Radical Islamic terrorists murdered 93 of my friends. They murdered my two best friends. They tried to murder me. I'm one of the few that got away. And I say my friends, you know, Richie and Garrett are here. You know, they're friends too. We lost, yeah. In the New York City Fire Department, we lost 343 firefighters. Didn't lose, they were murdered. And 93 of them were my friends. Out of the 343 firefighters, nearly 100 of them were from the Special Operations Command, which both Richie and Garrett are from, and myself. So basically, it wiped out about a third of our command in one day, from Chief Downey, who was the most senior rescue chief probably in the country, down to the newest guy in one of the squad companies. So let me get back. So truth in history also means that this was not a plot of the U.S. government, right? You know, all the truthers out there. So we want to make sure that we talk about the truth about what happened that day, the truth about who did it, and we also want to remember the day after, 9/12/2001, and what New York, America, and the world were like in those days afterwards, and how we all came together against evil. Good versus evil, and there's a lot more good out there. There's a lot more good, but sometimes sometimes we get visited by evil, and it's hard, but we will stand up and fight, and we will not tolerate it.
We have a question back here.
Oh, sorry.
Tanya, go ahead.
There was just such a tremendous outpouring of love and support after. You know, you really saw the good in humanity, and I think that's what people should always remember too, is that when things can be so horrific, people can still come together and unite and do really beautiful things to support each other.
Yeah.
You know.
Getting over the loss and the grief and so forth, a lot of it has to do with forgiveness. But how do you balance that forgiveness with the knowledge that it was a terrorist attack? And how do you, I don't know how you get over that and forgive when in fact it was such a horrendous act?
Oh boy, that's a tough question, man. So I would say that I struggle to be the person that I learned you're supposed to be in church. I struggle with the forgiveness thing. I will never forget. I will always remember, and I will speak my mind. I don't care if they don't like it. I will speak my mind. Because we need to. But I will give you an example. We do a memorial walk every year, the first Sunday of September, called the 9/11, the Father Michael Judge 9/11 Walk of Remembrance. And we retrace Father Judge, he was the fire department chaplain, and we retrace, he was murdered also. We retrace his steps from West 31st Street and 7th Avenue down to the World Trade Center. And we stop at every precinct and every firehouse, and whoever's on duty comes out, and we say a prayer with them, and then we give them a standing ovation, and say thank you for, you know, putting your hand up the first day and saying you're willing to give your life for your neighbor and for your friend. And the person that started that walk is a former police officer named Stephen McDonald, who was shot 25 years ago and is a quadriplegic. And he has not only forgiven the person who shot him, but he has become friends with the guy. And to me, that is an amazing example of goodness and love. And I'm not there, man. I'm not there. And I maybe I'm not proud of it, but you know, just because we say we're not at war with them doesn't mean they're not at war with us. And they still want to attack us, and they still want to kill us. So I'm still fighting, I guess.
I'm a little more on the kumbaya side. Sorry, but I am. I couldn't give, I just didn't think they deserved my attention. You know, I couldn't go there, so for me it was just about focusing on all of the good in humanity, knowing that there's still evil out there, but I don't want to give them a platform. I don't think they deserve it, and that's where I kind of stand on that.
Yeah, we were talking backstage just sort of about the process of grief and how different it is for everyone, and you were talking about how you see that. I mean, you see that a lot in your work, that everyone has to process so differently.
Yeah, and each person has a very unique journey. And I think, you know, what I say in the end of the film is prior to experiencing that, you know, I had every judgment in the world about grief. But the truth is that we each have our own journey. We each perceive things differently. We'll forgive or not forgive. It's, you know, it's entirely up to the person, and no judgments anymore. I mean, once I've lived it, no judgments. Everyone, you do whatever you have to do to get through it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Sorry. I'm a retired emergency response chaplain. I worked on and off for about 3 years following 9/11 in New York, and worked with many of the firemen, especially the China House Fire Department. At the time, my question is, through what impressed me about the movie is how it shows follow-up over years through this, how helpful it was. And initially, after 9/11, when the men would go, and women, would go for help from the fire department, seek medical advice, seek emotional help, it somewhat, in their minds, made a black mark on their record. And it caused them to hesitate to reach out for the help that they needed so much. Do you see, has that changed now within the department?
The New York, I think Richie and Garrett would agree with me, the fire department is completely opposite, or firefighters, I should say, is completely opposite from what we were. We were dragged kicking and screaming into it because it was the only way we could survive. I am an example of some pretty heavy therapy, you know, 3 times a week. It was a lot in the beginning in trying to learn how to deal. So I think in the New York City Fire Department, and probably many other fire departments now, it's more acceptable and less of a stigma. I think in law enforcement, it's more difficult because they are judged, because they have a weapon, and they are judged by their mental state of mind, mental emotions, and they need to be. So that it's a harder balancing act, I think, in law enforcement. So I think they still struggle with it. And you know, this is part of what Project Rebirth is trying to get a measure of, because we don't even know the suicide rate among first responders in this country. So we're trying to learn from it and get on top of it. Thank you, by the way, for helping us out.
I had one question down here in the first row, and I see one there.
Hi, and this is for Tanya. Something you said earlier really resonated with me. You said that you had to get through the grief and through what people say, which is really interesting. So my question to you is, for those who want to support the people that are confronted with this type of grief, what is the right thing to say? What helped you from, what are the positive things that, how did people approach you that was in a positive and productive way towards your rebirth, so to speak?
That's a great question, thank you. I think it's the people that don't force you to, you know, you should be over this by now. It's somebody who just, really? Great, thanks. I still didn't have my body recovery. I think when people are, just say, I'll sit with you, you know, and let me be who I am in my grief and not try and shut it down. I think that was very helpful. I think for anybody who's grieving. Or people who, you know, there's one gentleman who gives a workshop at Camp Widow. He talks about the tissue thing, like how people automatically give you a tissue when you start crying to kind of shut up the tears, you know. It's those people who allow you to cry and to sit in it with you. I think anyone who says, I don't know what you're feeling, or anyone who doesn't say, I know exactly how you feel, I lost my dog. You know what I mean? Like those kind of things. No, you don't. You don't know how I feel. You lost, you know, even if you lost your husband or you lost your fiance, you don't know how I feel, because My circumstances are different. So I think it's just, when you approach somebody who's grieving, you do it in a place of no judgment and just say, I'm here for you. Whatever you want to say, if you want to say anything, I'm here. If you don't want to say anything, I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. That's priceless. Thank you.
Okay, last question. And I saw, Josh has somebody? Okay.
Thank you so much. I'm a school teacher with middle school, and I have connections to New York and firemen. And I made a promise to myself I would always teach them about 9/11 because they don't know. And I'm a history teacher, and there are people who don't teach about it. So I'm asking, how do I get you, Tim and Tanya, to my classroom?
There's a gentleman sitting right in front of you there named Aaron. And,
well, I mean.
No, we are doing that in several schools throughout the country. We have the Talking with Tim and Tanya program where we can visit you, come to the school, we can Skype.
Skype in.
We can Skype in. We can, if you come to the 9/11 Memorial Museum, which if you haven't gone, folks, you need to go to that.
Yeah, it's really, they did a spectacular job.
It is amazing. And so, and again, go to Facebook, Project Rebirth on Facebook, and message us, and someone on the Project Rebirth team will get back to you. But it is a direction that we as an organization would like to go, is to get into the schools.
And the feedback that we're getting from the students that we presented the program to it's amazing to know that they're not just getting the personal connection to the day, and they're really learning who the victims are. They're really understanding the life lessons of how, you know, things can turn on a dime, and, you know, there are things you can do to help you through. It's great work, and the kids are really responding to it. So, yeah, projectrebirth.org or Facebook. Thank you.
Do we have can I say one more thing before?
Yeah, go for it.
So, I don't know, I want to say thank you to this community for coming out for us tonight.
Thank you.
I want to thank the community for folks like the chaplain who came up to New York to help us. If there are other folks in the audience that came up, thank you.
Thank you.
And if there are any 9/11 family members, you don't have to identify yourself, but we're with you. And just remember, nearly 3,000 innocent souls, individual lives, were murdered that day. 658 people from one company, from Cantor Fitzgerald, 658 people, right? 343 New York City firefighters, 37 Port Authority police officers, largest loss of life for a police department ever in the history of the United States of America, and 23 New York City police officers. That's why we do this, for all the innocent folks. Never forget what happened, and always speak the truth about what happened that day.
And also, you know, the ongoing illnesses from Sergio's Firehouse in Brooklyn, we've already lost 3 due to 9/11 related cancer. And the numbers are just increasing. So another thing that we can encourage you to do is to please reach out to your local representatives to help get that extension of the Zadroga Act.
Yeah,
it would mean so much to so many people.
We're hurting a little bit on that right now, and there are guys and gals who are very sick who are walking the halls of Congress in Washington this week, trying to, for whatever reason, convince people that it's not just a New York problem, it's an American problem. And we need to encourage some folks to change their mind on this.
Yeah.
Well, Tim and Tanya, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank you,
for having
everyone,
us.
for taking the time. Thank you so much. It means so much to us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're here with David Garofalo. What did you think about that film, David?
Absolutely incredible. You know, one of the subjects in the film, Tim Brown, is a dear friend of mine, a retired FDNY. I've known him for over 8 years now. I helped him with the Firefighters for Rudy campaign in Florida. I was the executive chair for Florida, and I was a co-chair for the whole country. and I got to know him and his vision and what he wanted for our country, and watching him on the film and seeing basically how successful the film is, and saving and helping so many people. And we talked about suicide prevention at the end, and what it does for first responders. And there's no way we can tell how many first responders could, murder themselves every day. And to know that there's support groups and grief-based initiatives that are out there helping people is wonderful. And a lot of times it's just talking to somebody, and if it's one-on-one or in a group setting, that helps. So my hat's off to the producer and to Tim Brown and Tanya. God bless them and what they do for everyone, and especially first responders.
And they were such an inspiration to listen to their stories, but to interview and talk with them beforehand and just hear how far they've come and some of the difficulties that they were faced with every day. We can't even imagine.
Absolutely. It's hard to imagine. Like I said, I'd never been to a call of the magnitude of 9/11, although I was working on 9/11 myself up in Pasco County. I'm a captain now, but to know that you lose 343 of your brothers in one call, to lose one brother in a call, that to succumb to injuries or from a call, but to lose 343, and to have him step on stage and know that he was there and lost, like he said, 93 of his friends and 2 of his best friends. So whatever Tim Brown needs, if he calls me, and whatever his cause is, I'll always be there for him. So he let me know they were going to be doing a special screening in this, and I'm here. So it was awesome.
Thank you for all you do, and I know they appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're back with Garrett, and we were talking a little bit earlier about this time every year, how this affects you. Tell me a little bit about what you experience, and then how you're helping others.
Well, every year, probably the end of August, things just change. I think it's so for everybody that lived through that horror that we lived through back in 2001. But it just, I don't even know how to describe it. It just takes over. Kind of changes your emotions. You become edgy, and kind of removed from what's going on around you. It's so powerful. And I said to you earlier, I'm just now, like September 12th comes every year, and it's like you breathe a sigh of relief again, and you start going on with your life. But it kind of puts things on hold every year for everybody that lived through that event up close and personal.
And you are doing some things to help others. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, trying in my own way here on the Suncoast in Florida to encourage members of Congress and the Senate to vote to reauthorize the James Zadroga 9/11 First Responder Health and Compensation Act, and to make it permanent. In 2010, the bill finally was passed, but not before a tremendous amount of political wrangling, an agreement that they had to pass an extension of tax cuts for wealthy people, and that was used as a leverage by one of the parties. That was their way of getting enough votes to extend tax cuts for the rich, was we won't vote for the 9/11 health bill for sick and dying first responders unless you give us enough votes so that rich people don't have to pay as much taxes as they are, which is pretty hard to deal with. Subsequently, before the final vote, they also said, we're going to cut the funding. It was cut nearly in half, and it was underfunded to start with, and yet they cut it even more before they would pass it. And then the final kick in the gut to every first responder in this country who is or who may someday become ill from their service at 9/11 is that it was brought to the floor and seconded, and it was a bipartisan decision, was that every first responder who seeks assistance from this health and compensation bill will be checked against a terrorist watch list to make sure that we're not terrorists. I couldn't even believe it when I first saw that on C-SPAN. I watched it live when they said that. I can't imagine that there were very many terrorists riding on fire engines and in police cars that morning and ambulances But that's the way the people in Washington think about us and the way they think about funding things. It's sad. There's over 30,000 people who responded to the World Trade Center on 9/11 who have 2 or more 9/11 related health issues now. There are thousands that have 9/11 related cancers. There's over 1,000 that have died from 9/11 related cancers. I think we've lost 120 some odd New York City firefighters now to 9/11 related cancer. It's big. It's not going to go away until the last first responder dies from this. And someone mentioned inside earlier, 9/11 first responders are being treated shabbily, as are our heroic soldiers who protect us overseas. We're the front line of security and defense on the home front, and our soldiers are the same over when they go overseas. And we're all in that one big bucket. It's like, oh, you're all heroes, you're all great. Oh, you're dying, that's a shame. And nothing's
And I think that's what people don't understand, is that there's still so much and so many people suffering. You know, we think 14 years ago that major impact that this had on people's lives and on our world as a whole. But there's still people out there that are suffering.
Nearly 3,000 that first day were murdered. And the carnage just grows every year. And I say it all the time. 9/11 is still happening. The attack itself is done, but the damage is continuing and getting worse by the day. It's tragic, and again, that this isn't a bipartisan no-brainer in Congress. It shocks us. I know Tim Brown just said that on the stage inside. It's shocking. What don't they get? This whole week, first responders, sick and dying first responders, are walking the halls of Congress this week, trying to drum up enough support to get this bill extended before it expires. How any human being can look at these people, they're heroes, they're patriots. How can they look at them and say anything other than, I'm all over this, what do you need me to do to help? I'm definitely going to vote for it, but how can I help you right now to move this along? I want to walk the halls with you.
And tell me, Garrett, how can people still help?
Well, locally, certainly contact our congressman. I know Sarasota and Manatee County, the congressman is Vern Buchanan. They can just go to the congressional website and get his email and his phone number and just urge him. He has not supported the bill in the past. He's not made any indication that he's going to support it this time. Just urge him. Maybe somebody can get to him and convince him how important it is that this be done. Again, it shouldn't be a partisan issue. It's bipartisan. This is American heroes who ran toward the danger and stayed there for months following, doing the work that needed to be done. And nobody's asking for a handout. We're all asking to just be able to receive the medical care that we need to stay around as long as we can. You know.
Well, Garrett, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we're so glad you spent time with us this evening.
Thanks
all
so
right.
much.
Hi, I'm here with Jedediah Shoemaker, one of the people that are responsible for bringing this film here to the beautiful Venice Performing Arts Center.
Yeah, it is beautiful, and we're very glad to be able to bring the film here. This is our first event over at the VPAC since they reopened, and these facilities are great. We hope to do many more events here. Rebirth was important to bring here to Venice specifically. Not only did Venice have connections to 9/11 because of the terrorists who trained at the airport here, but also we wanted to do more outreach to South County. We're doing a lot of moonlight movies. This season we have one in Nokomis, we have one in Venice on the beach. But Rebirth it's a special event. This is, as Tanya said in the green room a little earlier, this is one of those off anniversaries, being 14 years. It's one of those times that there may not, it's not a round number like 15. So the awareness and the thought about it might not be there. And as Tim was talking from stage, there are a lot of political repercussions that are still ongoing and still need attention. And if we're able to focus a couple of people on those issues while still making them think, the film is about grief and the process of grief as much as it is about September 11th and the aftermath therein. And I think that that's relevant to a wide audience everywhere. And I think that the audience tonight could relate to it through their own experiences with grieving in others or in themselves.
I agree with you because I heard that so much tonight. People said, you know, it really makes you think of what they went through and how minimal my issues might be for everything that they had to go through. And we forget about that after 14 years. There's so many people still suffering.
Yes, there's so many people suffering directly, as some of the subjects in the documentary showed, and there are so many people indirectly, those who have lost people, and on top of that, there's a level on which September 11th has changed our culture, and it's become trite to talk about it. There's almost a fatigue in talking about it, that it's important to remember actively the way in which that has influenced us and continues to influence us indirectly as a culture.
Well, thank you so much for bringing it to Venice and letting us be a part of it. It was a great evening.
Well, thank you for coming out, and thank you for spreading the word about it. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Jedediah.